Namaste, beautiful souls. It's Dr. Danny. Welcome back to my channel. Wow. So apparently we have a second moon. Isn't that interesting? So I love astronomy. I think it's amazing. It's an amazing science. Just the way we get the calculations that we have, how we've been able to figure out our universe. I love physics, cosmological physics. It's one of my sort of intellectual indulgences. I absolutely love to read about it. And so the other day, I was just watching a podcast that I enjoy, and they were talking about the second moon. And I was like, hang on, let me check this out. So I went ahead and I did a Google search, and I found out a bunch of things about this moon and about our solar system that I would love to share with you today, how that may impact you in the coming weeks, and what it means for us as a collective. It may not be exactly what you think it is. So, at any rate, I'm Dr. Danny. I'm a physician astrologer. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. When I'm not delivering the star seeds, I am watching the stars. So this story was quite impactful for me. So what I would like to do today with you guys is go down the rabbit hole I went down and share with you what I learned, because I think that that will be helpful in assessing what this second new moon means. Quick announcement, guys, don't forget about the Uranus class. We've got 11 participants now. I'm super excited. If you didn't catch our live earlier this week with Michael, who is helping me teach this class, you should, because that's what we're going to get. It's basically going to be all the Uranus you would ever want. Uranus is on my ascendant right now in my natal chart, and Michael's an Aquarius rising. So we are Aquarian people, and Aquarius is in my midheaven. So we are going to bring you the goods on Uranus. There's also a meditation included with this course. It is a crown chakra activation, and it is a guided meditation that I've created, and I composed the music for you. The frequency is, somebody asked me in the live on Tuesday what the frequency that I used for that meditation, and it is 207.36 hertz. It is based on the cosmic octave. And what they do, the calculation is super simple. You basically take the orbital frequency of a planet, in this case, Uranus, in cycles per second. Obviously, it's going to be a very small number because Uranus's orbit is 84 years. Then what you do is you get this decimal number. You double it until you get an audible octave. And that's the whole theory behind Hans Cousteau's work. So it's a wonderful meditation. Those of you that have already done it have given me an incredibly amazing feedback. So that link will be below for you guys. Do check out that course. All the profits from that are going to Serena's Disability Fund. So we're doing it for a good cause. All right. There's also tuition payment options for you. So if you don't want to, drop the tuition, the course tuition all at once, you can do it over 3 months. So there's lots of reasons why you should be part of this class, and I encourage you guys to do that. All right. I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to get into this rabbit hole of the second moon. So I heard this on this podcast, and I was like, okay, this has got to be something stupid. But look at this. I want you all to notice, and this is actually 3 times more what it was yesterday when I was researching it. It's like all over the search engines. Everybody's talking about this second moon. Every major news corporation. It's actually quite incredible. And whenever they pick up a story like this and fly with it, I get a little suspicious. Like, why all of a sudden are we now talking about this second moon? And what you'll find is that if you do research it, it's going to be a little bit confusing because we actually do have a moon in co-orbit with us called Cruithne. It's spelled Criuthne, and we'll talk about that as well. But this just was amazing to me. And so I went ahead and I just dug into the wiki pages and the articles, and I read them and got the name of the asteroid that we're dealing with here and what it means. And apparently, you guys, this is not the first time that this has happened. So we've got this just this little news bit that's come out, and it's asteroid 2024 PT5. So there is actually a group of asteroids that are in co-orbit with our Earth. They're called near Earth objects. And NEOs, basically what they call them. So this particular body is very small. It's only measured in feet. Okay. And our moon is 2,700 miles across. So basically you go from something that's the size of maybe a car to like the size of the United States. So you're not going to be able to see this moon really unless you have a professionally high powered telescope. And its gravity is not going to be effective enough to do anything. And so does it affect us sort of psychologically? Maybe. I mean, maybe with all this talking about it, there's definitely something to that. So this particular asteroid, they're saying, will come back in 2055 and will be even closer to Earth. So I think that's super interesting. So let's look at this. Let's look at some of these near Earth orbit objects. This one is just has a name 2024 PT5. And we're actually going to look at some orbits. But one thing I did notice was that there is a larger moon that is much bigger. It's like hundreds of feet, I think. Let's see. Dimensions okay, so it's 3 miles in diameter. So definitely much, much bigger. And this thing's been in our orbit ever since we detected it, which was, I think, 1986. It's probably been there a lot longer. And what they theorize with the astronomical models and the mathematical models is that this particular body, Cruithne, will orbit the Earth for a few thousand years, and then it will come out of orbit and then do this horseshoe orbit. So you can see what these horseshoe orbits sort of look like. And here it is. You see that movement? Look at that. Isn't that crazy? So this is from the fixed perspective of the sun. But when you look at it from a fixed perspective of the Earth, it takes this horseshoe shape. So here they've made Earth still here, and they've done the orbit of Cruithne. So isn't that super interesting? This is much more interesting to me than this silly little moon that's going to orbit Earth for about 57 days. And the big freaking deal that they're making about it, it's really, really amazing. So here we have this energy, Cruithne is how you say it, and it refers to the early Picts. So there's a group of people in what is now Scotland, north of the Firth of Forth, in the early Middle Ages. And they detailed their culture here. So, I actually didn't look at this. Let's do this right now. Let's go see what this is about. Oops, I don't want to say that. Let's just go to it. So let's see. Let's see if there's any like energy about them. It was made up of chieftains, Iron Age tribes, ruled by the House of Alpine. Yeah, so that may be something to kind of look into, because it's a term that was found at the end of the 3rd century and was used to describe unromanized people. Yeah, so that's interesting. Unromanized people. So this Cruithne, and I'm not talking about the second moon everybody's talking about. I'm talking about this moon that shares our orbit with the sun, this body, this asteroid that's 3 miles wide. So unromanized people, unromanized energy. I wonder what that would mean. We'll have to think about that for a little bit, but there's a lot of information here if you guys are interested in going down that route to look at this body, Cruithne. This is not the moon that we're getting. I went on the Cruithne rabbit hole because once I realized that we have more than one mini moon, I had to go and check it out. So there's that 3753. Now, I wanted to sort of, my brain thinks spatially too. So not only am I into data, but I'm also into like, well, how does that actually look? How does that work? So those diagrams that are moving are very helpful for me. And I said, well, maybe 3D Sky Live, which is the solar system model that I use to kind of show you guys about inferior and superior conjunction. Maybe that'll be helpful. We're going to reset this camera. So what I did is I put this new mini moon. I actually could find it in here. The way that you do that, if you want to play with the Sky Live, is you can search for objects. So I just typed in the name, and thankfully there it was, because now we're able to sort of take a look and see what this orbit might look like and what it means for us. So there's Earth, and there's Near Earth Object 2024 PT5. This is the newsworthy object. And I want you to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play its orbit. We're going to go forward in time several years, maybe decades, and I just want to watch this orbit because I think it's really interesting that we're making such a big deal about it right now. I mean, yeah, it's getting pretty close to Earth, and the next time it'll do it, it'll be 2025, but it's always close to Earth. Doesn't it look like that? You know, so basically this is the time frame for which it will do a quick orbit around Earth, and then it'll go out of the news. But they're trying to get our attention right now. So there you go. Now we're into 2025. And Venus had just done her retrograde loop. So yeah, that'll be interesting because you'll have Mercury retrograde, Venus retrograde, and then Earth in 2024 PT5. So yeah, this thing's always kind of around the neighborhood. So I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, like what is the big whoop about this thing? It's always been there. It's going to orbit around the Earth a little bit. But there are many of these bodies. I'm going to show you in a second. So I don't know why I stopped sharing, but here we go. So let's look at stellarium because I wanted to see if we could see 2024 PT5, maybe around the moon. You know, we can find the moon here in stellarium. But oddly enough, like here's the moon. So you would think we would be able to see maybe this object. But when I search for it in stellarium, you cannot find it. No luck. 2024 PT5. No such bird. Okay. But it's going to be in this general vicinity, which is, and the moon's in Cancer right now. So it is a waning last quarter moon. So we're about to go into the eclipse season here, or into the eclipse energy. But I did find Cruithne. And I thought it was super interesting because Cruithne is pretty close to star Sirius, which is a very important star. It was important to the Egyptian culture because when Sirius began rising with the sun, that meant that it was flood season, and all the water from the Nile, that fresh water, would flood out into the plains, and it would be the beginning of the fertility season. So if you're looking in the sky at night, this is going to be in the morning, early morning. And let's do this. Let's go back a few hours so we can see all this stuff rising before the sun is up. Oops, sorry. There we go. Yeah, so the sun has not come up yet. If it's 5:30 in the morning, you're outside before the sun's up, you can go out and you can see Orion. Look for Orion, the 3 stars. You'll see Jupiter in Taurus and Gemini as Mars, and you'll see the Pleiades over here. You won't see Uranus, but Uranus is over here. And then you'll look down for this really bright star. You just follow the notches of Orion's belt southward, and you will get the star Sirius. And then Cruithne is right here. So there is our body, this body that has a horseshoe orbit and is moving around moving around our very near space. This is the object I'm referring to. So you see how their orbits actually cross? So there you go. So that is just one note. That's the biggest body that's sharing our orbit. Here are the list of other near Earth objects, over 100. I mean, look at this. These are all objects that have been discovered in the local area of space. Now, not all of these systems will know where these are for some reason, and that's okay. I mean, they're small objects, but oh, look, here you can see a telescope image of one of them. It just, how quickly it moves. So what I did is I went back to 3D Skylab and I added just a couple of more near Earth objects just so you could see how crowded it gets. Isn't that amazing? So that's just three extra ones on top of what we already have with and Cruithne is not in here, Cruithne. So let's play this. Let's see what that looks like. So it's helpful to sort of look at the space you're in and look at where we think these objects are. And plus, I just wanted to play for you that Venus Pisces star point that's coming in early of next year. See Venus and Earth, see how close they get together. I mean, wow. So these objects, I mean, when you think about space, space is pretty vast and these objects are pretty small. So they're the impact of these, if these things will impact it, the probability is very, very low. I mean, obviously there's always a probability, but they don't seem to be pointing to that in this case. They seem to want us to look to the skies, to have a curious interest in it, and not really look at anything else. Once again, I'm just showing you what you get when you search Earth's second moon. You get just all kinds of articles all over the place, at least on that first page. And this is just one search engine. I'm sure Google and Yahoo is even worse. And there's all kinds of YouTube videos about it. I mean, it's really quite insane. These objects have different names, you guys. So uh, they're called Trojans, and the reason they do that is because while they're in the same orbital path as the Earth, we never collide with them because of the gravity of the combined Sun, Moon, Earth. They will focus themselves in a particular area around the Earth, and they're called Lagrange points. So this is pretty cool. This is one of the 2010 TK. I think that was on one of the slides. So here you can see the Lagrange points. So these are basically gravity wells in our local space around our sun where bodies tend to accumulate. It's almost like isobars on a weather map. And when they're in these spots, they're called Trojans, and all the planets have them. Even the moon has its own Trojans. And they're very, very small bodies, just particulates, that things like that. So Jupiter has its own set of Trojans as well, and they end up forming this pattern of like a perfect isosceles triangle. So each angle it's 60 degrees away from the Earth. So I think that's really, really interesting that we've got this geometry around our local space that focuses little gravity wells for asteroids and comets and things like that. We also put telescopes here as well because they tend to have a more stable orbit. So here's more information on Lagrange points. You can see that. So these if you guys wanted to go down this rabbit hole and just kind of, get a little bit of the science around why we have these asteroids and, what they mean. But really what got my attention is that, in my study, whenever I have a topic I want to look up, this seems to keep coming up for me, these Lagrange points. And I wanted y'all to just sort of look at the geometry of it. Okay. So do you see that 60-degree perfect isosceles triangle? There's a geometry here. Okay. That perfect triangle, this shape, just this one side of the pyramid. Earth also has this similar effect. So if we were to zoom into the Earth space, she would have her own L3, L4, and L5 points, as well as L1 and L2 around the moon. And so this is a pretty well documented phenomenon. And I also think it's interesting too that if you were to maybe rotate this picture 90 degrees to the left, it would look almost like a cross. It's almost like these chakra points. It's very interesting. And I also had recently sat down with someone who did my cosmic human design, and this kind of reminds me of that too, the way that sort of tree is set up with the chakras on cosmic human design. And then the other thing that's been coming up for me as well about this when I'm doing research is this three-body problem. So I don't know if you all have seen this, just stare at that for a moment, but there's a Netflix series called Three Body Problem, and it has to do with our relationship with ETs. And I'll admit, I do fancy the idea that we have, other creatures in our solar system and universe that may be intelligent and maybe trying to communicate with us. But a lot of times these, just for entertainment value, these shows are dark. These aliens don't have good intentions for us. And then everywhere I look, I keep seeing, these kinds of images, three body problems, the Netflix episode. So the podcast that I was watching yesterday, which sort of birthed this whole idea of bringing this information to you, was talking about, is this second moon a mothership? Here's the Netflix series. Is this moon some sort of mothership that is finally here, and disclosure is finally here? And I'd like to maybe address that a little bit, just sort of wax a little bit and see what you guys think about what I'm thinking. um I don't think that this moon's a mothership, okay, but the idea of us having a second mini moon for a little while, a natural Earth satellite as opposed to a technological satellite, um, to get us used to that idea in case something is spotted. Okay. So it's all over the news. It's all over every single outlet, distracting you from the current events of the day. And of course, this could all be spontaneous. I could just be, being a conspiracy theorist. But whenever I see the mainstream media pick up on something, because it's all usually coordinated, I kind of like, what's actually going on here? And so, is it out of the realm of possibility that we are being trained to understand that this is a common thing? And so if we see satellites in orbit, that it's just a mini moon. It's just a mini moon for a little while to see how we will do with it. Because it really is quite a common thing in our local area of space. And for them to just kind of make a freaking big deal about it all of a sudden just got my head scratching. Like, I was like, well, okay. So, I mean, it was new to me, but, you know, this is obviously a known thing. And I also hear a lot of truthers saying, we're waiting for disclosure. We're waiting for disclosure. We're waiting for. Look, guys, I think we're already in it. Okay. This seems like a preparatory move, a preparatory sort of subliminal, subconscious sort of programming. Let's get used to the idea that we can see extraterrestrial, albeit natural or artificial satellites in our space that we occupy. But there's also a lot of things going on in Congress and with our military, talking about, and then the work of Dr. Stephen Greer. The defense budget is over $1 trillion. Okay. Yeah. Wow. I mean, so I'm not saying one way or the other. I really would love to actually meet some benevolent humanoids, and I fancy the idea of Star Trek. I'm a Trekkie at heart. Like, I would love to do luxury cruises through space, things like that. But what if there was something? What if there was something that we sort of need to know, but in order to get us ready for it, they make us used to seeing things in the sky that maybe we never looked at or saw before. So anywho, that's why I wanted to come on and talk to you guys today, just sort of see how you feel about that. If you like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're lurking. Check out the Fellowship of 13 Signs, where we're learning this kind of where we're learning constellational astrology. And as always, I'm here to help you guys if you have any questions. So I will talk to you soon. Bye now.